The auditorium buzzed with excitement. Yasser, clad in his graduation gown, felt a surge of pride. His chest swelled with accomplishment. Years of hard work had culminated in this moment. His diploma, clutched tightly in his hand, represented a future brimming with possibility. He had graduated with honors, a testament to his dedication and intellect. His family, beaming with pride, showered him with congratulations. Yasser, their golden boy, was destined for greatness. The world was his oyster. This was just the beginning. Yasser had always been a bright and ambitious student. From a young age he displayed a thirst for knowledge and a natural curiosity. He excelled in his studies, consistently earning top marks. His teachers recognized his potential, often remarking on his intelligence and work ethic. Yasser embraced challenges, always striving to push himself beyond his comfort zone. He was determined to make something of himself, to create a better life for himself and his family. Graduation was not the finish line, but the starting point of his race to success. Yasser, armed with his education and ambition, was eager to make his mark. Yasser landed a coveted entry-level position at a prestigious firm. The work was demanding, the hours long, but he thrived in the fast-paced environment. He was a quick learner, absorbing information like a sponge. His colleagues, initially skeptical of the eager newcomer, soon recognized his sharp mind and dedication. Yasser was always willing to go the extra mile, to put in the extra hours to get the job done. He quickly proved himself to be a valuable asset to the team. His insights were sharp, his analyses thorough, and his work ethic unmatched. Promotions came quickly. Yasser's rise through the ranks was nothing short of meteoric. He thrived on the pressure, the constant challenge of proving himself. He embraced every new opportunity, every new responsibility, with unwavering enthusiasm. His salary increased, allowing him to provide for his family in ways he had only dreamed of. He moved into a spacious apartment, a far cry from the cramped apartment he had grown up in. He treated himself to nice clothes, fine dining, the trappings of success. But with success came a different kind of pressure. The long hours took their toll. The once clear line between his professional and personal life blurred. The city that never sleeps offered countless distractions. Yasser, desperate for an escape from the pressures of his life, found himself drawn to the allure of the nightlife. He began frequenting upscale bars, seeking solace in expensive drinks and fleeting companionship. The alcohol numbed the fatigue, the loneliness, the gnawing emptiness that had taken root within him. He surrounded himself with people yet felt utterly alone. One night in a haze of intoxication and despair, he was introduced to a new escape: cocaine. The white powder promised energy, euphoria, a way to forget the mounting pressure and the growing void within him. The first line was a revelation. His fatigue vanished, replaced by a surge of euphoria. His mind raced, his senses heightened. For the first time in months he felt alive. He had discovered a way to silence the demons that haunted him, to recapture the energy and drive that had once defined him. The descent into addiction was insidious, a gradual slide into darkness. What began as an occasional indulgence became a crutch, a way to cope with the mounting pressures of his life. The lines of cocaine became more frequent, the doses larger. He justified his behavior, telling himself he was in control, that he could stop any time. But the drug had a powerful hold on him, whispering promises of escape and relief. Yasser, once a beacon of self-control and discipline, found himself trapped in its grip. The consequences of Yasser's addiction were swift and brutal. His work performance continued to deteriorate, his once stellar reputation tarnished by his erratic behavior and missed deadlines. The inevitable finally happened. He was called into his supervisor's office and handed a cardboard box containing his belongings. The termination was swift, unceremonious, a stark reminder of how far he had fallen. Jobless and adrift, Yasser retreated further into the abyss of his addiction. The expensive apartment he could no longer afford became a distant memory. He moved from one temporary accommodation to another, each place shabbier than the last. The material possessions he had accumulated, once symbols of his success, were sold off one by one to fund his habit. The life he had built, brick by painstaking brick, crumbled around him. His family, once his biggest supporters, watched in horror as he spiraled out of control. Their pleas for him to get help fell on deaf ears. Yasser, consumed by shame and guilt, pushed them away, unable to bear the weight of their disappointment. The once unbreakable bond between them frayed, strained by his addiction and deceit. The city streets became Yasser's new reality. The once bright lights now mocked him, reflecting his shattered dreams. He joined the ranks of the city's invisible, the forgotten souls who wander the streets, seeking solace in doorways and alleyways. Food, once a source of pleasure, became a matter of survival, scavenged from trash cans or begged for with trembling hands. One night, caught in a torrential downpour, Yasser found himself huddled under the awning of a closed shop. The rain, relentless and unforgiving, mirrored the storm raging within him. He looked in the reflection of the shop window and barely recognized the haggard, hollow-eyed stranger staring back at him. The once proud graduate, the rising corporate star, was gone, replaced by a shell of a man consumed by addiction. In that moment of utter despair, as the rain washed away his tears, something within him shifted. A faint flicker of hope, buried deep beneath layers of despair and addiction, ignited within him. He couldn't continue down this path. He had to fight, for himself, for the memory of the man he once was, for the faintest glimmer of a future. He had to break free from the chains of addiction that bound him. The journey would be long and arduous, but for the first time in a long time, Yasser felt a glimmer of hope. He had to try, he had to fight for his life. The air hung heavy with the smell of stale coffee and unwashed dishes. Adam paced the length of his cramped apartment, each step echoing the frantic beat of his heart. He ran a hand through his already disheveled hair, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape from his own thoughts. His gaze fell on the phone, a sleek black rectangle that seemed to mock him with its silence. He picked it up for the 10th time, his thumb hovering over the call button. Doubt gnawed at him, whispering warnings he couldn't ignore, but there was no other choice. He had to know, had to be sure. With a deep breath, he pressed the button and held the phone to his ear, each unanswered ring amplifying the tension that coiled tighter in his gut. The insistent buzzing in his ear grated on his nerves as the call went straight to voicemail. He hung up without leaving a message, his stomach twisting with a fresh wave of anxiety. Why wasn't she answering? Where was she? The question circled in his mind, fueled by fear and a growing sense of dread. He glanced at the clock, its digital face glowing accusingly in the darkness. Time was slipping away, each passing second pushing him closer to the edge of a precipice. He had to get to her, had to make sure she was safe. The thought spurred him into action. Grabbing his jacket and the small brown envelope lying on the table, he rushed out the door and into the night. The street lamps cast an eerie orange glow on the deserted street, their light swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Adam kept his head down, his pace quick and purposeful as he navigated the familiar route. He clutched the envelope tighter, his knuckles white against the worn paper. It felt heavy in his hand, a tangible reminder of the danger he was in. Each rustle of leaves, each distant car horn sent a jolt of fear through him. He felt exposed, vulnerable in the desolate landscape of the city night. But he couldn't stop, not now. He had to get to the meeting point, had to find out if his fears were justified. The voicemail message played on a loop in his mind, Sarah's voice trembling, barely a whisper.
Adam, please. They said, the envelope. It's the only way.
Her words, fragmented and desperate, echoed his own growing fear. He couldn't shake the image of her face, pale and drawn, her eyes pleading for help he wasn't sure he could give. This was bigger than him, bigger than both of them. The weight of the envelope seemed to increase, the contents unknown, yet holding the key to Sarah's safety. He quickened his pace, urgency propelling him forward. The diner was a haven of warmth and light, a stark contrast to the cold, dark streets outside. He spotted the man immediately, sitting alone at a booth in the back, his face obscured by the shadow of a fedora. Adam slid into the seat opposite him, his heart pounding against his ribs.
You have it?
The man's voice was a gravelly rasp, sending a shiver down Adam's spine. He nodded, pushing the envelope across the table. Their fingers brushed briefly, the man's skin unexpectedly cold.
Good, she'll be in touch. Don't follow me.
Adam could only watch, a sense of unease settling over him as the man disappeared into the night. Exhaustion pulled at him, the adrenaline that had fueled his every move now replaced by a bone-deep weariness. Back in his apartment, the events of the night swirled in his mind, a chaotic jumble of fear and uncertainty. The phone rang, jarring him from his thoughts.
Sarah?
He answered, his voice hoarse with fatigue, but it wasn't Sarah. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, laced with amusement.
You shouldn't believe everything you hear, Adam.
The line went dead, leaving him staring at the phone in his hand, a cold dread creeping up his spine. What was going on? He spun around, his senses on high alert. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. There was someone else in the apartment, he could feel it. The air hung thick with a presence, unseen but palpable. His eyes darted around the room, searching for the source of the intrusion.
Who's there?
His voice was a choked whisper, fear constricting his throat. Silence. Then a soft chuckle close to his ear, sending a wave of terror crashing over him.
You should have asked Sarah about her secrets.
The voice, smooth and cold, sent chills down his spine. He was trapped, caught in a web of deceit, and the spider was closing in. Sunlight, it streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing the spacious apartment in a golden glow.
Kareem stood before a full-length mirror, adjusting his silk tie. His reflection stared back. Handsome, successful, perfect.
This apartment, this city, my life. It's a monument to my achievements. I built this life from the ground up.
He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. He walked towards the expansive balcony, overlooking the bustling city below. A wave of contentment washed over him. Everything he saw, he had earned. He deserved it all. Or so he thought.
Daddy?
A small voice piped up behind him. Kareem turned briefly, glancing at his 5-year-old daughter Maya clinging to her mother's hand. Lena, his wife, stood silently, her face etched with a familiar weariness.
Not now, Maya,
he said, his tone dismissive. He had no time for childish interruptions. He had an important meeting to prepare for, a deal to close. His gaze returned to the cityscape, his mind already strategizing.
Come on, sweetheart, let's let Daddy get ready.
Lena sighed, guiding Maya towards the door. The door closed softly behind them, leaving Kareem alone with his ambition. The sleek black car cut through city traffic, delivering Kareem to his destination. He strode into his office building, a high-rise giant of glass and steel, his arrival heralded by the respectful greetings of colleagues.
I thrive on this, the admiration, the envy in their eyes as I pass. It fuels me, validates my relentless pursuit of success.
The meeting went flawlessly. His presentation, a masterpiece of charisma and carefully crafted statistics, captivated the clients. He watched their faces, gauging their reactions, feeding off their awe. He was in his element. In this world, image was everything, and Kareem was a master of illusion.
Where's Maya?
She's asleep. She missed you.
Later that night, Kareem sat at the head of their grand dining table, a table meant for 6, yet only 2 places were set. Lena served dinner, her movements stiff, her silence deafening. His tone was more of an afterthought, a formality than genuine concern. The unspoken accusation hung heavy in the air. Kareem, however, remained oblivious. He was used to Lena's quiet disapproval. He dismissed it as he always did, focusing instead on the details of his day, his triumphs. He didn't notice the single tear that rolled down Lena's cheek as she turned away. He arrived home late again, the city lights twinkling mockingly below. He called out for Lena and Maya, but the apartment was eerily quiet. He walked into Maya's room, his heart suddenly pounding in his chest. The room was empty. Her favorite stuffed animals sat neatly on the shelf. Her tiny slippers lay abandoned by the bed. He stumbled towards their bedroom, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach.
Where's Maya? Where is she?
She's gone, Kareem. We both are. You were too busy admiring your reflection to notice that we were fading away.
Lena sat on the edge of the bed, her suitcase open beside her. Her eyes, usually filled with warmth, were cold and distant. She stood up, picking up her bag. He stood in the empty apartment, the silence deafening. He called Lena's name, but his voice echoed back, hollow and empty. He rushed to the window, looking for their car, but the street below was deserted. They were gone. The weight of his neglect crashed down on him. He remembered Maya's small hand reaching for his, her innocent voice calling him daddy. He had been so focused on his own reflection that he hadn't seen the love reflected in their eyes. He sank to the floor, his carefully crafted world crumbling around him. The apartment, once a symbol of his success, now felt like a prison, a constant reminder of his loss. He had spent years building his empire, brick by brick, fueled by ambition and the need for validation. He had achieved everything he had ever desired, and yet, in his relentless pursuit of more, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. The silence was unbearable. The echo of their absence reverberated through his empty life. He had traded the warmth of their love for the cold comfort of his self-admiration. And now, he was left with nothing but the bitter aftertaste of regret. He had been so consumed by his own reflection that he had failed to see the love, the life, that had been right in front of him. The cost of his self-obsession, he realized too late, was everything he held dear.